In this video, we're going to take a look at a brown ink by Private Reserve, their Fast Dry Chocolate. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a brown ink playlist so that if you want to see more browns, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's look at the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding. No ghosting. This isn't really bleeding. This is at the scrubby. We have no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. They are all the same tone. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry. The medium took 12 seconds to dry. Fast dry, they say. Although the extra fine's not too bad, you know, whatever. The scrubby for both show no color variation. We really don't get it. The smear test says you probably could read what you have underneath the smear if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Sailor 1911 ringless with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, we have a lot of ghosting, but that's to be expected with a thin paper and a very dark ink. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The medium is noticeably darker than the extra fine or the stub. The extra fine took 14 seconds to dry, where the medium took 26. Scrubby for both show no color variation, we're not getting it. In the smear test, you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. Now, this is actually a very classic way to make a brown. We have red at the bottom, then we have yellow. Now, the green you see is actually from the blue at the top. If you mix all three primary colors, what you wind up with is brown, and that's how we're getting it here. I would have expected some really good shading. I just would have been let down. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put in the water. You see that that red is bonding onto the paper, showing that the red might be a permanent aspect. The rest of that red pushes up. We clearly see the yellow. And again, where that green is, it's because it has a dark blue at the top. We may expect just a little bit of resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, no tone variation from one nib to the other. This is the same brown, very dark all the time. The extra fine took 7 seconds to dry. The medium took 11 seconds to dry. The scrubbies showed no color variation because there is none to get. And the smear test you probably could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use it in a note-taking situation. That's a serious blowout that's occurred on the lowercase h, and I am risk averse. Water's moving the blue and the yellow away, but not that red that we saw in the chromatography. Now, it's a very dark red there. On Pen Flush, which is doing the same thing, the red is much lighter, and the 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it but discoloring the paper. Now, the great news is I did need to use a little bit more than water, but it only took a tiny bit of Pen Flush, and that was quick. It went in and straight out, and the ink was broken down and gone. It was just to get that last bit that was fighting me, but it only took a little bit of the Pen Flush to get it out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. We have no bleeding, some minor ghosting going on with the medium. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, but what we do notice is while the stub and extra fine are the same tone, the medium is much darker. The extra fine took 4 seconds to dry and the medium took 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby, no color variation, none in the writing, but the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Fast Dry Chocolate has a viscosity of 2.02, making this a bit wetter than normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now, let's take a look at the next writing sample done on 28-pound copy paper. We do get some bleed spots that occurred even on the medium, quite a bit that occurred, even on the extra fine, quite a bit that occurred on the medium. Now, I don't see these extra fine ones being a major issue to stop you from using the back of the page, but what was I gonna... but it didn't touch the page underneath. I forgot what I was talking about. So in general, it's okay with the extra fine. The medium, I don't think you could use the back of the page. The medium, looking at them, we do have feathering that occurs on the medium, not on the extra fine. We have spread on both the medium and the extra fine. The medium spreads just a little bit, which is okay considering it feathers much more. The extra fine spread to about a fine. We have no halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry for the extra fine. The scrubby shows no color variation, we didn't get it. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so you don't have to worry about it. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Fast Dry Chocolate has an average dry time of 13 seconds, meaning it's normal. It's supposed to be fast dry, but it's normal. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now, there's a lot of bleed, a lot of ghost that's going on. I'm very impressed that all of this bleed with the medium did not touch the page underneath. You just have no chance of using the back of the page. There's feathering all over all of this writing. There is spread. It spreads at least a size. This extra fine looks more like a medium. That medium looks more like a broad. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. Do I think this stops people from using this? No, I don't. The extra fine took 1 second to dry. The scrubby showed no color variation. There was none. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so you don't have to worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Fast Dry Chocolate, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice red since that was the permanent color when we did the resistance tests. I chose Monteverde's Valentine Red. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Fast Dry Chocolate? I've learned doing these reviews that I don't care for the chocolate browns. This one is just too dark and feels dull and just there on the paper, taking up the space of any other ink. But that's how I tend to feel about the chocolate colors for browns. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? While I don't care for chocolate browns, I do think you get your nicest tone from a very dry fine or very dry medium nib. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Diamine's 1864 Blue Black.